The crystal chandelier cast a warm glow over my parents' dining room as everyone gathered for their 35th anniversary dinner. Mom had gone all out as usual: fine china, sterling silver cutlery, and expensive champagne that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. I adjusted my simple black dress, feeling distinctly underdressed compared to my sister Olivia's designer outfit. "Emma, you could have dressed up a little," Mom said with that familiar disapproving tone as I took my seat. "This is a special occasion." I bit back a retort. At 29, I was tired of defending my lifestyle choices. While Olivia had followed the path they'd laid out: prestigious university, high-powered finance career, engagement to a wealthy banker, I'd chosen to become a teacher, much to their endless disappointment. "Leave her alone, Diana," Dad said, but his tone suggested he agreed with Mom. "Let's focus on the good news we have to share." I sipped my water, watching as relatives filled the remaining seats. Aunt Margaret, Uncle James, cousins I barely saw except at these formal gatherings, all of them successful by my parents' standards, all of them ready to judge anyone who didn't meet those same standards. "Where's Jason?" Olivia asked, referring to my boyfriend of 2 years. "Couldn't afford the gas to drive here." I ignored the jab. Jason was working late at his engineering firm, finalizing a major project. Not that my family would understand the concept of actual work. Most of them had inherited their positions or married into money. "Now then," Dad stood, raising his champagne glass. "Diana and I are so happy to have everyone here to celebrate 35 wonderful years together. But we have another announcement to make." Mom beamed, reaching for Olivia's hand. "As you know, Olivia and Charles are getting married in 6 months. We want their wedding to be absolutely perfect." I could already feel where this was going. Every family gathering somehow turned into a celebration of Olivia's achievements. "The venue they've chosen is quite exclusive," Dad continued, his chest puffing with pride. "And to help give them the dream wedding they deserve, we've made an important decision." My mother's eyes sparkled with excitement. "We're selling the lake house." The lake house. My stomach dropped. The small cottage where I'd been living for the past 3 years, the only place that had ever felt truly mine. "What?" I managed to keep my voice steady, though my hands were shaking under the table. "Oh, don't worry, dear," Mom waved dismissively. "We'll give you plenty of time to move out. 3 weeks should be enough, right?" Olivia smirked. "It's not like you have many possessions to pack anyway." I thought about my carefully tended garden, the home office I'd set up, the memories I'd built there. "You can't sell it. That's my home." Actually, Dad's smile turned smug. "It's already sold. The papers just need to be signed tomorrow." The room spun slightly. Tomorrow. They'd arrange all this without even telling me. "Don't be dramatic, Emma," Mom said, noticing my expression. "It's just a house. And it's not like you were paying market rate rent anyway. We've been very generous letting you stay there so cheaply." If only they knew about the carefully orchestrated plan that had been in motion for the past 3 years. About the shell company I created, about the investment fund I'd built while living frugally and letting them believe I was struggling. "Who bought it?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Northern Lake Properties," Dad replied. "They made an excellent offer. Much more than that old place is worth, really." I reached for my bag, fingers brushing against the folder I'd brought just in case this moment arose. "Northern Lake Properties," I repeated slowly. "Interesting name." "Well, it doesn't matter what they're called," Olivia interjected. "The point is, the money will help fund my perfect day. It's not like you were doing anything important with that space anyway." The room hummed with murmured agreement. Of course they'd support this. In their world, Olivia's wedding was infinitely more important than my home. "Did you know," I said, keeping my voice casual as I pulled out the folder, "that Northern Lake Properties is actually a subsidiary of Summit Investment Group?" Dad frowned slightly. "What does that matter?" "And Summit Investment Group," I continued, laying out papers one by one, "is owned by Horizon Capital Partners." "Emma," Mom's voice held a warning tone. "Nobody cares about corporate structures. The point is," I cut in, finally pulling out the deed. "Horizon Capital Partners is my company. I established it 3 years ago, right before I moved into the lake house." The silence that fell over the room was absolute. Even the usually chattering cousins fell quiet, all eyes fixed on the documents I was spreading across the fine linen tablecloth. "What?" What are you talking about? Dad's voice had lost its smugness. I'm talking about the fact that I bought the lake house through my investment company 3 years ago. When you thought you were letting me live there cheaply, I was actually letting you believe you still owned it. Olivia's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering against the hardwood floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. That's impossible, Mom whispered. You're a teacher. You couldn't afford. I'm a teacher who also happens to run a successful investment firm. I corrected her. I just never saw the need to brag about it, unlike some people. Dad's face had turned an interesting shade of red. You're lying. Show me proof. I slid the deed across the table, along with documentation showing the complete ownership chain from Northern Lake Properties to my holding company. It's all here, I said quietly. Every legal document, every transfer, every corporate filing. The lake house has been mine for 3 years. You just signed a sale agreement with your own daughter. The silence in the room was deafening as my father examined every document with trembling hands. His reading glasses had slipped down his nose, and for the first time in my life, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. This can't be real, he muttered, flipping through the pages again. There must be some mistake. No mistake, I said calmly, pulling up my investment portfolio on my phone. Would you like to see the other properties I own? The apartment complex in downtown, the office building on 5th Street, or maybe you'd be interested in seeing who really owns the venue where Olivia is planning to have her wedding. Mom's hand flew to her chest. The Grand Plaza? That's yours too. I nodded. Through another subsidiary. I bought it last year when it went up for sale. Olivia's exclusive venue has been mine all along. But you live so simply, Aunt Margaret interjected, her voice wavering. Your clothes, your car. Because I understand the difference between showing wealth and building it, I replied, something this family seems to have forgotten. Olivia, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly found her voice. This isn't fair. You've been lying to us all this time, pretending to be poor, making us feel sorry for you. I turned to her, raising an eyebrow. Sorry for me? When did any of you feel sorry for me? You spent years mocking my choices, belittling my career, treating me like I was somehow less than you because I didn't flaunt my success. But you're a teacher, Mom stammered. How did you? Yes, I'm a teacher. I teach because I love it, because it matters. But did you ever wonder what I did with my evenings, my summers? While Olivia was posting photos of her luxury vacations, I was building an investment empire. Every time you made snide comments about my modest lifestyle, I was closing another major deal. Dad finally looked up from the documents, his face ashen. The sale agreement we signed is legally binding, I finished for him. You agreed to sell the lake house to Northern Lake Properties, my company, for $3 million. Except I already own it, so now you've essentially agreed to sell me something I bought years ago. Any decent lawyer would have a field day with this. The implications slowly dawned on their faces. They hadn't just lost control of the lake house. They'd exposed themselves to potential legal consequences. What are you going to do? Mom whispered. I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment. That depends. Are you ready to have a real conversation about respect? About family? About treating people with dignity regardless of what you think they're worth? Uncle James cleared his throat. Perhaps we should give them some privacy. No, I said firmly. Stay. You've all been part of this dynamic. All of you watched, laughed, participated in making me feel small. You should all hear this. I stood up, smoothing my simple dress, which actually cost more than Olivia's entire designer outfit. For years, I've watched this family worship money while forgetting about actual values. You measure worth by brand names and postcodes, not character and accomplishments. That's not true, Mom protested weakly. Isn't it? When was the last time anyone asked about my students, about the lives I'm helping to shape? All you cared about was that I wasn't making enough money, or so you thought. I pulled out another document from my bag. This is a draft lawsuit prepared by my legal team. It details every instance of attempted property fraud, including today's invalid sale agreement. It also includes evidence of tax evasion I've discovered in Dad's business dealings. Dad's face went from ashen to gray. You wouldn't. Try me. I met his gaze steadily. I spent years documenting everything, building my case while you were building your egos. Olivia jumped up, her chair scraping against the floor. You're just jealous. You're trying to ruin my wedding because you can't stand that I'm more successful. I laughed, the sound echoing in the tense room. Successful? Let's talk about success, sister dear. Your firm, Wellington Financial. I own 30% of its shares through one of my holding companies. That promotion you got last month? I voted for it during the board meeting. You don't even realize you've been working for me. She collapsed back into her chair, face drained of color. Now, I continued, gathering the documents back into my folder. Here's what's going to happen. The lake house stays mine, as it has been for 3 years. Dad's going to organize an independent audit of his business practices. And Olivia's wedding. I smiled. Well, the venue is still available, but you'll be paying full market rate. No family discount. You can't do this to us, Mom pleaded. We're your family. Exactly, you're my family, which is why you should have treated me with respect all along, instead of measuring my worth by my apparent bank balance. I stood up, picking up my bag. I have a meeting early tomorrow with my investment team. We're closing another major acquisition. But I'll leave you with this thought. While you were all busy looking down on me, I was quietly building something bigger than any of you could imagine. Wait, Dad called out as I reached the door. What do you want from us? I turned back, taking in their shocked faces, their shattered illusions. I want you to understand that success isn't about what you show the world. It's about what you build when no one's watching. I built an empire while you were busy mocking my choices. Maybe it's time for all of you to reconsider your definition of success. As I walked to my car, a modest hybrid that was actually an early prototype from a tech company I'd invested in, my phone buzzed. It was Jason. How did it go? He asked. Just as expected, I replied, smiling as I saw the lights still on in the dining room, imagining the chaos I'd left behind. They finally learned that the daughter they underestimated owns half their world. And the lake house. Still ours. Though I think we should host the next family gathering there. Give them a chance to see what real success looks like. I drove home to our beloved lake house, thinking about how different things would be now. The masks had fallen, the truth was out, and my family would never see me the same way again. But more importantly, they would never look at success the same way either. Sometimes the biggest achievements are the ones you build in silence, while others are busy judging your apparent failures. The next morning, as I sat in my real office, the top floor of a building I owned, reviewing acquisition proposals and investment opportunities, I received a flood of messages from family members. Apologies, explanations, attempts to align themselves with my newly revealed success. I left them all unread. They'd spent years showing me exactly who they were when they thought I had nothing. Now I would have to live with the knowledge that the daughter they dismissed as a failure had quietly become the most successful person in the room. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about revealing that you've already won, long before anyone else knew there was a game being played.